readers. Trisha Goyer here, and I am so glad to be here. I am super excited because I am introducing someone who's very special to me, and you'll hear about why she's so special to me in a minute. But Elly Gilbert is here with me today. So, Elly, welcome.
Hello.
So glad to have you. Okay, why don't we just start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm Ellie. I am a wife and mom and educator. I don't teach in the classroom anymore, but I'm still a teacher at heart in Central Kentucky. I have just published my first book with Trisha's mentorship. So that
Um,
was exciting. Um, that's pretty much it about me.
Just she is amazing. She's just not gonna tell you all the amazing things. But okay, I have to show them. Do you have a copy of it too that you can hold up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, on the count of 3, we're gonna hold this up. 1, 2, 3. All right, this is Under the Blue Skies, and
Yeah.
it's her first novel, just published. And then you see up on top it says Trisha Goyer presents Elly Gilbert, which we'll explain what that means in a minute. But Elly, I just would love you to share a little bit about the story, which I love so much. So tell us about the story.
Okay, so my story that I got to write was about Lavina Graber, who is this Amish spinster. She's all of 25 years old. So that's, she feels like a spinster.
Over the hill for sure.
Yeah, really over the hill. In her world, that would be it. So she feels like it's not meant for her to ever get married. She has some physical limitations that she thinks make her not fit in her world to be married. So she's really resigned herself to being um, a helper in everybody else's world. Sometimes she's a little bit of a busybody, a little bit nosy, but she's just there to help and do what she can. And so we kind of start out with her, and then she meets this very mysterious stranger, an Amish
Ooh.
bachelor who has come from Pennsylvania to West Kootenai, and he is Thomas Smucker, and he's kind of a grouch, and he doesn't want to get to know anyone. He just wants to be left alone and start his life from scratch with no ties and just kind of be a mountain man. But that he doesn't get to stay that way for very long because he has a surprise guest who shows up not very far into the book. So that's his niece that he didn't even know existed. He had a sister who left the Amish faith and went into the English world, and his father cut off all ties with her. And so um, she's tragically been killed in an accident. And the only person who's left for the little girl is Uncle Thomas, and Uncle Thomas
Mhm.
is not ready to take on that parenting role. But Lavina is right there to help him. So we get to experience the two of them kind of push pull, yin and yang. There are a whole lot of moments of conflict between the two, but they kind of work their way through all of their issues and start to see each other the way that God really intended for them to see themselves. So it's a really fun, sweet story.
It is so fun. It's so sweet. There's so much fun humor parts of it, especially when you throw in a little girl who didn't grow up Amish that isn't sure about this Uncle Thomas that just loves Lavina and her dog, and so it's like even when Thomas thinks like I'm just going to do my thing, also have no, Emily's not going to let him do whatever he wants, and she has her very loud opinions, and I think it's such a delightful story with the characters are amazing, and then it's set in West Kootenai, which is my Big Sky series is set there. So we have my first 3 books, and then we had I had Over the Gray Mountains, no, Beyond the Gray Mountains that came out, and then Kristen Crum just had On Golden Cliffs, and so Ellie's book follows this, which is Under the Blue Skies, and so there's familiar characters. You're gonna see Annie from the store and Edgar and different people from the community. And it's set in Northwest Montana, which I love. It's one of my favorite places on earth. And Ellie got to experience Montana through the pages of writing this book, which is a completely different culture. What did you learn maybe about Montana as you're writing an Amish book set in Montana?
I actually had someone comment on something on Facebook once that they didn't know there were any Amish in Montana and they lived there, and I was like, "But there really are." And
Yeah, there
I
are.
kind of had to explain that to them. But yeah, it is a very different place, and they are very isolated, very
Hmm.
way out from any other kind of civilization, and so they kind of get to do things their own way,
Mhm.
um, which is fun to write about because you don't have as many rules that you have to follow. They have a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, and so then there's also the bachelor element, which is a very real thing that happens in Montana, so talk about that, which is why Thomas is able just kinda to move the community 'cause it's pretty common for these bachelors to just come.
Right. So I guess every spring, early summer, an influx of bachelors come and they set up residencies so that they can hunt in the fall, hunting season. And of course, it's a small little community, and as it would be in any small community, new men, uh, kind of the new fish in the pond for the girls in town, and so there's always the matchmaking and the little elements of crushes and romance, and so Thomas doesn't want any part of that. He just
Mm-mm.
wants to come to town, do his business, and be left alone. But that's not how it's going to work out for
That's
him.
not how it's gonna work out, which I love it. Okay, so Ellie was able to write this book because she applied as one of the people trying out to write with me for Sunrise. So Ellie, just explain that process, like when you heard of it, and then what happened along the way.
Okay, so I think it started in Avid Readers in
Okay.
the Facebook group. I saw a post about it, and I thought, well, I've always wanted to write, but I don't know how to write a book. I know words and I know how it works, language works, but how do you put a book together? So when I heard about this opportunity to have someone mentor me and kind of walk me through the process and help me brainstorm and plan and plot and learn the ins and outs of publishing, I was like, yes, this is my chance. And so I listened to you and to Susan May Warren talk about it on a Facebook Live, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a
I
try. So I
remember
thought,
you commenting on that Facebook Live.
I was
You're
like,
like,
"This is great. This is what I need. I need someone to hold my hand."
yeah.
And so, I submitted an idea, and my original idea is not terribly far from
Mm-hmm.
what ended up happening in the book. There were a few little tweaks to make it more interesting, but I thought I want to have that instant family because that's one of my favorite romance tropes, and I also wanted a fish out of water. So those were kind of my original plans, and then when I found out that I was a finalist, I had a little bit of revision to do, resubmitted, and then I waited impatiently to find out that I had actually been accepted. So that was so cool. And then we all got together. Trisha and Kristen and Susie and some other writers got together and we brainstormed and plotted these stories out so that they would all make sense together. And then kind of helped me understand story structure. I've been a 10 years since I thought magically happened for me and think about all the strategy that went into it. So I really learned that, and it was just a really huge blessing.
Yeah, you were so easy to work with, and I just remember, first of all, plotting with Susie May Warren, who is the owner of Sunrise Publishing. I was taking notes because I mean, I would plot my books and I always have outlines, but she has the story equation. She has actually a book on it. And she has a system for working on plots. And I think all of us, including me, who I've written tons of novels, were sitting there just as wide eyes as this plot is unfolding. And like you said, you had the bones of what's there, but it's just trying to figure out their pains and their wounds and their fears and all these things. It was like a fire hose, I think, when we were going and plotting. What did you think when we were in the middle of that plotting session?
The weirdest, or like, I don't know if it's weird, but the thing about Susie that I learned very quickly was that she was relentless, like with a question. She would not let you answer something with a superficial answer. She kept digging and digging and digging at your character. And so it was like they were being interrogated all the time. Um, and I'm, this people pleaser and I want to be the good student. And so I'm like, I need to have the right answer. And she would just kind of tease it out of you until you finally got it. It was just crazy. Like it was nothing I'd ever expected. Um, Yeah, it was unbelievable, and I think back to it often when I'm working on other things, like, what would Susie say about this plot point? Like, is this how she
Yeah.
would do it? So it's really taught me a whole lot.
Yeah, it's taught me a whole lot too, and I've read a lot of books, and it's so fun because while we were up there in Missouri, we got to go kind of to an Amish community. The main store and things that I wanted to go to was shut down because they're having an Amish funeral. So we very slowly, a couple times, went through the parking lot, pretending like we weren't taking photos and videos of everyone gathered for the Amish funeral, and then we were able to stop by a woodworking shop. So what was that like connecting? Because I know there's Amish in Kentucky, right? Do you get to see them
Right.
very often there?
We
Yeah.
Yes, there are some, quite a few in Eastern Kentucky where I grew up, Amish and Mennonites, and then in Central Kentucky, there are, little patches of them. In Western Kentucky, there's tons of, Amish communities, and actually, I found out not long ago, like maybe 2 months ago, that there's about 25 minutes from our house. They have everything. They have spices and bulk things. It's just a fun store. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was really neat to talk to them, to listen to them talk because I read the Amish books, but to actually hear that the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect blended in is really neat. And it was so neat to see their kids because they were very used to being stared at. You could tell that they they knew, these people are looking at us, but they went back into their house and they were like looking out the window at us. And it was just, I couldn't help think like, what are they wondering about us, these crazy women in this van that
This
are
big 12
talking to
passenger
them and asking all
van
these
pulling in
questions.
and yeah. And yeah, it was a woodworking shop that we went to, and everything was like man powered. I guess that's how you say it. There's like they didn't know because some Amish will do like generator. No, they had like the foot pump that runs the drills and all the things. And was it you that realized that the guy wasn't wearing shoes? Was it who
Oh
was that?
yeah, no one had on shoes. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kids didn't. Yeah.
It was yeah. So it was and all the different Amish communities vary. Like and you said West Kootenai is a different type of Amish community, but it was fun. And then we had fun reading through the who's who of the Amish community. Ellie, tell a little bit about that because
Oh my
I
gosh.
think I
So
think
they
it gave you
have
some inspiration too.
It did, and they have a, newspaper that goes out weekly, and it's huge. It's like 54 pages long. I subscribed to it for about a year while I was working on this book, and it's called The Budget. And every year they publish kind of a who's who of their scribes in the budget who writes in the little articles and pieces. And so there were some of the funniest. They write in weekly, and it's just an update of what's going on in their little community. And they're dramatic. Someone's been sick, someone has died, someone's gotten married, and then sometimes it's like someone had a mouse get in their house and this is how they got rid of it. And it's just really matter of fact and blunt. And I don't know if they mean for it to be as funny as it is, but it's quite funny, some of the things that they write about.
Yeah, it's so fun. And when I was in Ohio, I got to go to the house of 2 different scribes and, like, meet them and get to know them, and it's just so funny because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I've read your stuff before, and here I'm sitting in your living room." And then the who's who is kinda like, well, it'd be Facebook. I guess it'd be like a Facebook for the Amish community.
Yeah, it's kind of their annual. I mean, it's just sometimes it was just really funny, like the things that they would put about like how many kids so and so had, and just very blunt. That's the thing, I guess, just the bluntness.
I just remember because Ellie was reading out loud to us, and, like, one lady's like, "I'm 5 foot tall, and I'm as round as I am tall, and I have 3 hairs on my head." Like, it was just so cute. I mean, we try to, like, do our selfies and make ourselves, like, look better. I don't know, and they're just like, "This is who I am, and I have 3 hairs on my head, and I'm as round as I am tall, and I love sewing and cooking." It was just, like, the most precious things. It was so fun. So as you're going along, you mentioned that it wasn't too different. Your story idea is what came out in the book, but what did you discover kind of about your characters as you were going along?
At first, and this was an absolute rookie mistake, when I thought about Lavina, I thought, she's this spinster and she's angry at the world. That was my original thought of her. And so when I put her with Thomas, who was also kind of angry at the world, there was no reason for the two of them to ever talk to each. I mean, like, if they're so angry, why would they ever talk?
Yeah.
So I really had to work on, like, why, she's not angry. She's a happy person. She's not bitter. She's different. So that was one of the biggest changes, was rethinking her and why she would be the way she is. Why would
Mhm.
she be angry versus why would she be content with her circumstances? So that was a big change, because I really, my initial vision for her was that she was just as grumpy as he was, and that was not going to work as a story. So
2 grumpy
that
people, it's
was a
like,
big
"Oh,
shift.
yeah." Yeah. Yeah, and then you had her change. I mean, there wasn't I think the main plot that you had is the plot that is in the book, which is so fun.
It really was, and, like, I think originally I thought maybe he wasn't new to town, but it made it much more interesting for him to be new and nobody to know about him. That was, just another layer of intrigue and ways that I could plant little seeds about his past that not everybody would know. So a lot of it was just rookie mistakes, things I didn't know wouldn't work until I started to write them, and then I'd think, "Well, why would anyone care about this? They all already know it. Nobody This is not a mystery."
Yeah, oh, I love it. Well, and it turned out so cute though. Okay, so it just released. You just did a unboxing video, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. What was it like finally like holding it, looking at it, like and I love the picture of her. I mean, I think it does like capture her personality too.
It really does, and it's exactly how I had envisioned her, just perfect. But it was the most surreal thing to open the box, and I didn't get emotional about it, but it was very, like, I kind of had to restrain myself. But then, like, my mom called me and she was, like, crying because she watched me open it. She's like, this is so exciting." So it was very, I waited. I'd gotten the books in and, like, the kids weren't home, and I was like, "I'm gonna wait till everybody's home and then we'll all open it together." But it was just really unbelievable to see it and hold it and look at it. And then I've had, my friends have texted pictures with the book, and I'm like, "This is just, it's crazy."
Yeah, and all the good reviews. I mean, I've seen so many good reviews and people like, "I love this story. I love the characters," and, which is awesome. It's just so fun to like, "Oh, someone's actually reading the whole book that I wrote and they love it and they love the characters and the things that I imagined in my mind." I mean, yeah, you came up with these characters and, pitched it to us and then we like, "Yes," and then, now they're out there. It's almost like they're living, breathing people even though they're not. I mean, to us, they seem like
Oh,
they
yeah.
we like could go to Montana and hang out with them.
We lived with them for, I mean, like, daily for a long time,
Yes.
thinking about what Lavina would think or do. So, yeah, it's crazy to actually see it happen.
Yeah, and then we're able to put some of each other's characters in our books and then even more in the books that were coming out. So, before we jump into the ones that we're working on, there's a question, do these books need to be read in order? So, yes and no. So, the Big Sky series, I have, 4 well, 3 books in my original series besides Still Waters, A Long-Winded Pass, and Beyond Hope's Valley. And then the next one in the is actually book 1 in the new series, but it's actually book 4 in the old series. I know, it's confusing, but it's called Beyond the Gray Mountains. Those definitely have to be read in order. I would say Under the Blue Skies, there will be some characters that are in previous books that you'll be like, "Oh, they did get together after all." But for the most part, you could pick this up. You're gonna know and the side characters aren't going to matter basically. You can definitely read this as a standalone. You'll have the whole story, you will get a sense of the community, then later you go back and read the other ones, but both this one and then On the Golden Cliffs can be read like a standalone. So yes, they're beautiful in the series. Yes, they can also be read standing alone. You're not going to get lost and you're probably going to fall in love with the community, which is our hope because I love West Kootenai. And oh, we should show them what's in the front of the book too. So we actually have a map of the community and where everyone lives and the store and the Amish school. And so that was super fun to have that in there too. All right. So now you've worked on book 2. I have
Yes.
not read it all the way yet. I am loving the premise. How different was it working on your second book now that you have the first one done?
I knew pitfalls to avoid and things to kind of save myself some time, mistakes that I made, very huge mistakes. Like I had no timeline on the
Mm,
first book. Like when I started out, I was just writing it and I'm like, "Oh, is this Tuesday or Wednesday or are we a month in the future? Where am I?" I'd not even thought about that. So this one I plotted out, this is happening the first week and then there's 2 more weeks before the next chapter. So
mm,
I kind of had that planned a little bit better. Um, I'm writing about Lavina's sister in the second
mhm.
book. So it was I got to weave in some of Lavina's character into this story, but she wasn't the focus, and it was kind of hard to put her on the back burner, and focus on her sister. But it was neat to be able to refer back to things that had happened and pull in more of the community too.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, and it's so fun. I cannot wait. What I've read at the beginning is super fun. I can't wait to read more and find out what's going to happen with your characters, and then we get to work on that. So these will be out in 2025, which seems like such a long way away unless you're in publishing and have to like write the book and edit the book and then send it into the editors that do additional edits on the book and copy editing and covers. I mean, they just take time, but those will be coming out, and then more Big Sky books. I don't know. I just love writing about this community and these characters. Who knows what'll happen after that? We'll have to wait and see. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Would you like to write more, Ellie?
I would love there's one more sister I definitely would love to tell her story, and I'd like to do it at Christmas. I don't know why that
Oh,
I would love to do a Christmas story for her.
I love Christmas stories and
I do
Christmas
too.
in Montana. So, some fun notes. The Amish put the sleigh bottoms on the bottom of their buggies in Montana because they're
Hmm.
over the snow. So, like one horse open sleigh is a real thing even today in Northwest Montana. So, yeah, it's a beautiful place, and there's a lot of snow in
Oh,
Montana.
yeah.
Yeah, there's snow. So, yeah, so one user said, "I love when there are maps that brings things together." Yes, and so one fun thing about also Ellie's story is, Lavina's family has a Christmas tree farm, which I think definitely if you write about the sister during Christmas, that has to be a bigger part too.
Right, and that was kind of my little planting that little seed in there. They bought this property that had the tree farm on it. Amish don't really care about Christmas trees, not a big thing for them, but people in the community, the English people will want to buy Christmas trees, so, they are good stewards of their land, so,
Yeah.
kind of makes it fun, and there's lots of things that can happen, they could be in danger of a fire or lots
Mhm.
of perilous, moments that could happen with a tree farm.
Yeah, and their farm also borders right by the Canadian border. I don't
Right.
know. There could be something happening with the border. We don't know. If you have ideas, you can message Ellie and I because those aren't even started yet. But yeah, we would love to write more in the community. And yeah, and so West Kootenai store shows up in all the stories too. It's the central gathering place where you could have some pie and buy some jam that Lavina made and yeah, all the things. It's so fun. It does feel I mean, I have been to West Kootenai many times, but it feels like those people should be there when we get up there.
Yeah, right.
All right. So, a couple questions that I always like to ask. First of all, what are some Christian novels that you have read and enjoyed? It could be recently, it could be all-time favorites. Now, I love your blog, which you can mention too, because you do a lot of reading and reviews. So, go into that and then share about some of your novels that you've really loved.
Sure. I try to keep up with book reviews. This summer has been a slump for me, but I'm gonna get back on it. I finished a book today, so hopefully that will put me in the right direction. So my website is ellygilbert.com, ELLY Gilbert.com. And I try to post the things that I've been reading, my reviews, things like that. I think this year my favorite two things that I've read, I loved The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley by
Oh, that
Courtney
looks
Walsh.
so good.
Oh my gosh, I didn't expect to love it, and I absolutely just it was great. Um, and I love the way she writes anyway. I think she's wonderful. And Gosh, and then I loved, the new one that Jamie Jo Wright did that was,
Oh.
the house,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't think of the name, but it was I loved it. It was, a little spooky, a little weird, and, um,
Now I'm gonna look
always,
it up real
works
quick.
out in the end that it wasn't anything supernatural, but it doesn't keep it from being weird and spooky all the way through, so I love her books too. Those have probably
Yes.
been my favorites.
Was it
But I love World War
The
II
Vanishing at
also.
Castle? Was
Yeah,
that the Jamie
The
Yes.
Vanishings at Castle Moreau, that's what it was.
Yes,
I knew
that's
I
what
would
yep.
come up. But I love World War II, so Sarah Sundin is my absolute favorite, um, World War II writer. Love all of her books, and I loved the one that she had at the beginning, I guess it was back in, February or March. Um, just she's great, and I love her, so those have been my favorites so far this year, but I
Those are so good.
just finished Pepper Basham, Authentically Izzy, and I'm starting Positively Penelope tomorrow, so
Oh,
those
I
have been
love
fun
it.
too.
And I love that I mean, even though we're writers, we are writers because are readers first, and we loved reading. One of my favorites this year has been, a novel proposal by Denise Hunter.
I have
And
that one, and
oh my
I just
gosh,
got to it, yeah.
it's so
I
good.
love her.
So the fun thing about that is she's writing a romance novel, and it's a romance novel about someone who's writing a romance novel, but at the beginning of each chapter, it tells you the plot point in a romance novel, and then it happens in the chapter. I'm
That's
like, "This is brilliant, Denise." So it was super cute. We were coming back from Branson, Missouri, and I had, 4 generations in the car. So I had my grandma, my mom, myself, and then our, uh, oldest unofficially adopted daughter, Kaylee, in the car. And so I'm like, "What can I put on as an audiobook that everyone's gonna be interested in?" Because at first I had, like, one of my theological scripture in depth, blah, 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 and they were like, "No, we're not doing this." So I put in a novel proposal, and it was delightful. So that was super fun. That was able to
that one looks good.
yeah, cross all those lines. Okay. Then the second thing I want to ask is about your newsletter because I want to hear more about what you're doing. And it's so fun to get your newsletter and all the cute things you have in it. So, talk about that and then how people connect with you and get on your
Sure.
newsletter list.
Well, if you go to ellygilbert.com at the very top of the page, you can click subscribe to my newsletter and we'll take you right there. And I don't bother you too much. Once a month is about all I can handle for putting a newsletter together and getting it out. I really admire these people who do it more often, but once a month is a stretch for me. But I try to include, book reviews, things that I've been reading, things that my kids are doing. I mean, my kids are older. I have 2 seniors in high school and one going to college on Saturday. So,
Like this Saturday, she's going to college.
uh,
How are you handling that?
I'm not handling it. I'm just not thinking about it yet. Um, but I try to keep everybody informed about those things and what my little ridiculous dogs are doing. And
Yeah.
sometimes I share recipes if I've been cooking anything, which again, I've been in a slump about that too. I've got to get better. So just kind of a general life update, what I've been reading. I usually include a devotion that I've written and just kind of things that I'm thinking
Mhm.
about. So yeah, join that newsletter list. Follow me on social media, Elly Gilbert author on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, even though I haven't figured TikTok completely out yet.
I know I have an account. I haven't done anything with it, but
I've put up, like, a couple of book things,
have
but
you?
otherwise,
Alright.
like, I just watch, makeup tutorials and dog videos, so
Yeah. So my I don't watch even that much, but my 20-year-old niece was here, and she's, like, doing all this stuff. I'm like, "Wait, do you, like doing TikTok?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, you need to help me with my TikTok." She's like, "I would love to." So, we'll see. We'll see if I get anything up there, and if I do, it's gonna be because my niece Annabelle who's gonna help me get that stuff up there.
yeah, I don't know, I just think nobody wants to see me dance, nobody
I don't
I
know.
don't know, I
I
just
still
think
think we need to do a cooking show.
I do
Um
that would be fun,
Yeah,
yes.
we could totally do that because I've made Amish whoopie pies before, which are pretty yummy. Yeah, so I'll have to do that. But yeah, and
Well, and Lavina in my book, Lavina's a great cook,
mhm,
she's the aspirational me, I'm an okay cook. She's a great cook, and so I did put together, a little cookbook with her recipes, things that we
mhm.
mentioned in the story, so that is a freebie if you sign up for my newsletter, you can get, of Lavina's recipes, and they are tested and true, real recipes. One is my son's meatloaf, he's great at that. One is my
Oh,
mom's butterscotch pie, which is excellent, and so there's a few other little things in there, so
Okay,
they are really tried and true tested recipes.
I am getting hungry, like, just talking about, like, I want that food. And yeah, so I mean, I get a lot of newsletters. I always love opening yours up and seeing what you have in there. So it is super fun to find all the fun. It's just so creative the way you just present stuff. So anyway, good job, Ellie. Good job on
Oh,
your
thanks.
newsletter and connecting with your readers, especially for first time author. Like your first book, and it's here.
Finally,
Yeah, yes.
46 years later, here we are. We finally
Well,
have a
I
book.
mean, I think that's awesome, and I just love that I totally remember your comments as we were doing that Facebook Live, and you're asking tons of questions, and you're like, "I'm gonna do this," and you did, and, like, thinking back now when you were doing that, would you picture this? I mean, you had your hopes and aspirations, but
Oh, no. I thought that was I mean, I thought this is the only shot that I probably have at writing a book, but it didn't seem very real. It didn't
yeah,
seem like I
yeah.
thought, "You're just gonna be like, 'Thank you, ma'am.'"
No, it was awesome. Okay, so I have to know, didn't your, like, childhood librarian or something get super excited? There was something you said, like, tell us about
Yeah,
that.
the lots of I've had a huge, pouring of support from my hometown and from my friends here, in my current town. But, yeah, my childhood librarian was super excited because I was in that library all the time. Every week. Um, and they would save back books for me and know what I wanted before I even got there. So yeah, that was really he was really encouraging about it, and had contacted the current librarian. I think we're going to try to set up something. It's
Oh,
a new
fun.
library. I haven't been there because I don't live there, but they have a new fancy library. We had a small one, but they have a nice new one now.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
going to
love
try to
that.
set up something.
Yeah, and so if you're a librarian, thank you, because we are
Yes.
where we are today because of those librarians. I remember going back to the town. Well, it wasn't even the town that I grew up in, but we lived in Montana for 15 years. And we went back and I took my kids like years later after I hadn't been to the library. And it said something about, yeah, so and so. I was talking to, I think it was Pam behind the counter. And I'm like, remember when I used to live here? You memorized my number because you'd call me all the time to tell me when my special request books were in, and she rattled off my number. It'd been like 5 years since I even lived there, and she still knew my number because I had so many research books and stuff that she would hold back for me and tell me that they were there. So we love our librarians.
Every librarian I've had in my life has been super special. So, yeah, I was a reader from, age 3 or 4, and you just could not keep books out of my hands.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so go check it out. Under the Blue Skies. Trisha Goyer presents Elly Gilbert. So congratulations, Elly. Good job.
Thanks.
Well done.
Well, thank you for, talking me off the ledge all the times that I was ready to
I
quit
know.
and
Yeah, you're
control A, delete the whole thing,
that's what you're like,
start all over.
I'm just gonna delete half of this." I'm like, "No, don't, it's
I'm just
okay."
gonna change everything.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
No, I'm like, and it turned out lovely. It turned out great, and really, it was like little tweaks that just kind of fixed big problems, so and now the
Yeah.
book is amazing.
I'm so happy with it. My mom got her copy today and
Oh,
started reading it. So, yeah, that was exciting.
I love it. I love it. Alright, well, Elly, thank you for being here one more time. Tell people where they can go to connect with you.
EllyGilbert.com, ELLYGILBERT.
Alright, thank you.
Right, thank you. Bye, everybody.